All right, I call this the September 9th. Yeah, September 9th meeting of LAPTA to order. Please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and if we could have roll call.
Yes, and Director here, Director Josie here. Livermore alternate Raton,
Here.
Director McPherson,
Present.
Vice Chair Testa here, and Chair Brandon.
Here.
We have a form.
All right. Moving on to meeting open to the public. Do we have any comments from the public?
So we do have two attendees in here. If you would like to speak on public comment, please raise your hand now. They are not raising their hand, and I have something for consent out.
Perfect, thank you. Then I will close, meeting open to the public. And we'll move on to item 4, July Tri-Valley Accessible Advisory Committee minutes.
Thank you very much. I believe the TAC chair, Sean Costello, is joining us remotely.
I don't know if he is on here right now. We have a guest. I can allow the person to speak.
Can you ask them to raise their hand if that is you, Sean?
Sean, if that's you as guest, can you please raise your hand?
If not, I'll ask either Kadri or Mike to come up and please give a brief overview of the TAC meeting. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
No, Sean.
All right, so a summary of the minutes of the Tri-Valley Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting that was held on July 10th. I'm just gonna go through these minutes real quick because this was unexpected. But I think the big item for that meeting was the election of our new appointees. So we actually have a new chair, as Christy mentioned, that is Sean Costello from the city of Dublin, as well as a new vice chair, which is Esther Waltz. Please remind me where Esther is from, Audrey.
Livermore.
Livermore, that's correct. We also had an update on the Wheels Access Mobility Management RFP, which will be going out to bid in the next month or two. And then we also had Esther Waltz, who provided an update on the PAPCO agenda from the June 24th meeting, as well as discussion of service updates and concerns. So this concludes my report. I would take any questions.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Move on to item number 5, consent agenda. Are there any items anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda?
I just had a question on 5C, the on workspace requirements, ergonomic furnishings, appropriate lanes. So we say that we'll provide them a laptop, but as far as the ergonomic furnishings and those things, those are on the employee.
Yes.
And then if they end up with repeat trauma syndrome, we're not responsible.
We are.
We are, I mean, the laptop would probably be where that would come from, I guess perhaps.
Well, if they have like phones or whatever,
I don't think there's I mean, as long as they're doing their duties as an employee, I don't think there's an issue. I think if they were doing something at home that, was seating or something that was incompatible, if the agency didn't want to pay for those improvements, they could work in person. So I don't think we want to get into a budget of providing monitors and printers and all of it.
yes.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
Any other comments on the consent? No, do we have any public comment? Consent.
We did receive public comment via email for consent item 5C. I'll just read it. Dear Board and LAPTA, why have the additional 7 days of PTO proposed for exempt LAPTA management employees and the employee handbook not been brought to the board for approval the same way the remote workplace has? This policy defeats the purpose of exempt employees already having a highly flexible work schedule to manage their duties and places financial burdens on the agency to fund extra vacation days without proof that management staff consistently works way beyond 40 hours a week on average to warrant additional time off. Furthermore, 3 out of 4 executive staff have not been with the agency for at least 5 years, which is the amount of time required for all other employees to accrue additional PTO. Please be more transparent to the board and public on such administrative matters. Sincerely, Donovan Foreman.
Thank you. And do we have any public comment from Zoom or?
No, nobody has their hand raised. If anybody would like to speak in the public as attendee, please raise your hand.
I'd like to ask if there's any staff response to the comment that we got. The email.
Yeah, we can tomorrow.
So the comment was essentially that we didn't bring that to the board. However, the 56 hours of administrative leave for directors is part of our personnel policy, which came to the board a couple of months ago.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No one's online, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain on the minutes, but I on the rest.
You got that? Cool. All right, moving on to item 6, the 2024 FTA triennial review.
Thank you, Chair Branning. Good afternoon, board members. We recently completed our 2024 Federal Transit Administration triennial audit, and I will let Tamara Edwards share the good news with you.
So we did have our 2024 triennial review. This is the FTA triennial review is every 3 years. It's not a financial audit, although finance is one of the 23 sections. We literally upload probably close to 10,000 documents to the FTA, 3,000 alone just on facilities. It looks at everything, maintenance of everything we've ever purchased with their money. And like literally the daily maintenance of this building, inspections. They look at anything involving federal funds for the lifetime of this agency. So it's a very difficult process. They give us about 2 months to come up with all the documents and get them sent in. And then they review them, then they come in and they hang out for a couple days and grill us. And in the end, we received 0 findings, which is a huge accomplishment. There are only probably a handful of agencies within the state of California who would receive 0 findings.
No deficiencies.
No
Yes.
deficiencies.
Thank you.
Really thanks to Tamara's hard work. Tamara corralled all of us. She stayed on top of us. She made sure there was nothing missing. She responded well in advance to the supplemental questions that we received, which was instrumental in the audit being so efficient and expedient. We finished early, so it was really amazing.
It's nice because it gives kind of an encapsulation because it has the noteworthy projects like
Yep.
the acquisition of the Gillig buses.
Yep.
And the design documents for Atlanta. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice when we review this, like, okay, we're getting this stuff done.
Yeah, and the next one will be even larger. We'll have a lot more federally funded projects to report on. We'll have our fueling station, we'll have mobility hubs, we'll have bus stop improvements. So we are already starting our fiscal or that FY 27 FTA triennial files, so.
Any other comments? I'll just say, my wife works in audits, so first of all, amazing that you got 0 comments, and also I want to just commend everyone on staff for the fact that, you know, when everyone's working together, it's easier to get it done on time versus often there's resistance to audits, it feels like, so thank you to everyone on staff for doing that. Before we close this item, is there any public comment?
If anybody as an attendee would like to speak, please raise your hand. No, I didn't receive.
All right, and this was just an information item. So moving on to item 7. That is the. Or,
Yeah.
lost my spot. Operation and maintenance RFP update.
Great, thank you very much. So today we want to provide the board with a brief overview of the LAVTA fixed route operations and maintenance contract, or the request for proposals or RFP. Just to note, the RFP was released last week. Because the procurement is open, we are limited to what we can speak with you about today. Mike Tobin, our Director of Operations, will give you a high-level overview of the procurement, timeline, scope of work, and evaluation criteria. Mike will be supported by Jennifer Yeamans, our Senior Grants and Management Specialist, who can answer any specific procurement-related questions you may have. And Mike Conran will close out this item with an important legal reminder for us all. So with that,
Thank you, Christie. So yes, LAFTA is currently in the final auction year of its current O and M agreement with MV Transportation. The board actually approved its final auction year back at its meeting in December. The auction year will end June 30th of 2025. So as a result, the agency did release a request for proposals on September 3rd. So this was just last Tuesday for a new operations and maintenance contract, which will take effect July 1st of 2025. This is really the largest contract that we do here at LAFTA, not only from a dollar perspective, but also just it's such a critical contract because it really directly impacts our agency's ability to achieve its overall mission. We typically enter into a new O&M agreement every 5 to 7 years. So as I mentioned, this new contract will go into effect at the start of fiscal year 25-26. The scope of services for this contract includes the provision of fixed route transit services using LAFTA supplied vehicles, equipment, and technology. This also encompasses the hiring, the training, the certification, and the management, day-to-day management of all frontline staff. This includes bus operators, technicians, utility workers, dispatchers, supervisors, all these staff that are essential to delivering these transit services on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. So the solicitation timeline is included in your staff report. I also included a slide. It's pretty small, but I just wanted to highlight some of the major milestones of the procurement. So again, the RFP was released last week on the 3rd. Proposals are due on November 20th. Interviews will take place actually the week before Christmas. We have a tentative contract award scheduled for March 5th of 2025. And then just a month later, we'll actually issue a notice to proceed. And then this gives ample time in the case there is a contract turnover for a new contractor to come in. So that is the procurement timeline. So next slide. Finally, we really wanted to emphasize the scoring criteria that we will be using to evaluate proposals. So I'm just going to go through them real quick. So this includes, there's 6 overall evaluation criteria. So the first one is thoroughness and comprehensiveness of the proposer's understanding and approach to the project and its scope as outlined in the RFP. This includes the firm's capability and experience in providing similar transit services with other properties. This includes the proposed local project team management staff and their technical competence and ability to carry out the scope of services. Clarity and reasonableness of the price proposal included in the RFP for the proposal. Commitment to retaining our existing workforce. And last but not least, innovative approach to providing services. And this actually concludes my report. I think I'll pass it off to Michael Connor.
Thank you. So staff has just asked me to give the board a reminder that we do have a very established procurement process for this contract. There are many who have an interest in how it is awarded. They may reach out to you. Certainly it's their right to contact you, but we would suggest so that we can avoid any potential protest to the award, that you could politely listen, that you not involve yourself in the procurement process until it is really brought to the board. Staff has a very outlined process to deal with it. And so it will be coming back to you for ultimate decision. But even though there are some perhaps strong feelings, and that's kind of goes with the territory, it's the best thing for everybody to make sure we have a really pristine procurement process. And so if you have any questions or there's a concern, reach out.
Oh, just a quick question.
Yeah.
When you go through this RFP process, typically how many respondents? Something like this.
we had three proposals last year.
Okay.
The last time we did this, yeah.
There's just a few in the industry that, they're pretty well known to us,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, so,
Say 3 to 4, what we're expecting this year.
so, and it's what, 3 years plus we.
It is 3 base years plus 4 1-year options. So this would carry us through, I think, 32.
Yes.
It's crazy to put those numbers in writing.
And as we've always had the paratransit separate, so we
Yes,
can just
yeah.
receive a report on that part is thing separately and cooperatively with county connections. Which I think has worked out
Yeah.
well, so yeah, so this is just fixed route and what's March 5th, I think it is.
Yep, that would be our-
Tentatively coming back to you.
Any questions or comments? public comment? Oh, sorry.
But you were looking that way.
You weren't fast enough. I started there. and just-
That was too slow. Just a couple of generalized questions if I could. So, you put some of the criteria up there and I might have missed it. But we did have some troubles with, staffing, especially through COVID. Is there one of your metrics, the ability to staff a proven track record of being able to have the drivers and
Yes, absolutely. We are emphasizing retention and recruitment in our evaluation criteria and in the scope of work.
yeah, a look back, because I mean, it's hard for everybody, it wasn't just for a particular organization. And then my second question, I'm not quite sure how to ask this, so I'll just be a little bit blunt. Do we favor union contracts over non-union contracts? Or is that completely different? Because I know drivers in that industry, it's commonly union, but if there was a non-union, is there a difference? Do you have any thoughts on it?
We don't, well, I don't think we ostensibly directly favor, I think we look at that, there's also legal protections for the workers to ensure protections on the contract.
Right.
I think it's.
Living wage and all that.
I haven't really seen that come up as an issue in my career, I think it just naturally occurs that basically everybody has
Yeah.
union drivers, so
Okay.
I don't expect you to get about union.
Well, we're even seeing things like non-union going to union, like Starbucks and things like
Yeah,
that. I mean, it's
right.
getting to be more common because you want that solid workforce and that ties into my first question. It's really a consistent workforce.
So if we wanted to get into the minutiae of the transit industry in the early sixties as the Federal Transit Administration was created as the Urban Mass Transportation Administration, there were protections for drivers that had previously driven for private operators, Greyhound and other, that were kind of being phased out and being replaced with federally funded. So there's language hopefully you can see, there's actually continuing going on. We can see someday we come back and do it. Anyway, but so there's clearly like a long history of protection. I mean, and certainly with the terms and conditions of employment of employees.
I want good employees that will stay and be satisfied and make a living wage. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None. Are there any public comments?
So there's the one attendee. If you have public comment, please raise your hand. No, so we didn't.
Then that was information only, so thank you very much. Moving on to item 8. Board of On-Call Task Order number 3 to Kimberly Horn and Associates for cloud-based transit signal priority design and engineering services.
Mouthful. Thank you very much. I'm going to take this item. This is an action item for your consideration. We are requesting approval on a task order for design and engineering services for our cloud-based transit signal priority project. This item was presented to our Projects and Services Committee at their meeting on August 26th. The committee did discuss the item and recommended that the board award task order number 3 to our on-call contractor, Kimley Horn, for the design services for this cloud-based upgrade and expansion project. And just a quick note for correction, during the Projects and Services Committee meeting, I misspoke when I stated this was not a transit signal priority expansion project. In fact, the design does cover the entire fleet, expanding our TSP from just the Rapid to the entire fleet of buses. However, this project does not include additional intersections, but we've got our eyes towards the future. And I believe that with this cloud-based platform, expansion to additional intersections will be easy. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about what TSP is and what this project is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment. I mean, those of us that are on the Projects and Services Committee certainly know this, but maybe the financial folks don't. This is the money that we would have lost if it wasn't for this project. This is the money that we're rolling from the SAB project that is on indefinite hold. So I appreciate staff finding a good way, a good use of this money to move our fleet forward.
Any other questions or comments? I agree. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm impressed with the speed that you pivoted. And this is gonna be a cool project. It's gonna really help place. And because this also will help us with integration with the online services in the app.
Yep.
Yep.
I think so, yeah, and we get better real-time information. It's also a gateway for police and fire. They can also use the system. So that's something that we can work with our city partners to identify additional intersections.
So I think this is really cool. Do you have any comments?
If the person that's an attendee in Zoom would like to speak, please raise your hand. No. So we didn't receive any.
All right. Did you have one? No, okay. Then this is an action item, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second,
Oh, I think John beat you.
John.
Yeah, it's quick. Okay, John's visiting, so. We'll get-
Oh.
I'll let one of the establishments.
Never more preference.
All right. So we have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 9, the executive director's report.
All right, so I've got a long report for you. First, I just want to start by updating you on our fleet issue that I shared with you via email last week. So we encountered, I don't know if I'll call it a fleet defect, but in May, on our 29-foot 1,700 buses, of which we have 10, we were installing a steel plate as instructed by our partners at Gillig under the bus. I'm not sure why, that's not my area of expertise, but we were, doing our proper preventative maintenance. And everything was going fine, there were no issues. Then about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, during a preventative maintenance inspection, one of our mechanics noticed that steel plate was touching the drum brake, which was an issue. So that's when we said we have to pull those buses out of service. There was no mechanical issue that alerted us to the problem. Thankfully, nothing happened. And so then we pulled those buses out of service and awaited instructions from Gillig. And so they have come back, they said put the steel plate on the other side of the axle or chassis, excuse me, I don't know the exact word. That seems to have solved the problem, and they've also supplied us with additional disc brakes to replace the ones that may have been affected. So that is great. We had to shut down a few stops on the Route 4 in Dublin because apparently turning right on Stagecoach Road is pretty tricky in a large bus. So we had to temporarily modify Route 4, but we were out there with eyes on the service, making sure we didn't leave students who might have been taking the Route 4 to school, and of which there are a couple. So I'm happy to share we're back to normal. Kudos to the team for thinking quickly on their feet, and really strong kudos to the mechanics who found the issue, because it could have been a bigger issue. Any questions about the fleet issue?
Oh, question. So if Gillig made the recommendation for the repair, why didn't Gillig make, if it's my car, I take it back, they make the repair, they don't give me the parts to install?
They did inspect our repair, but I think we are the ones that do touch the buses for these types of repairs. This is not out of the scope of work for our mechanics, and we work with our Gillig partners all the time on different issues for different aged buses.
I guess let me ask the question differently. If it is a repair that Gillig recommends,
Yeah.
or something that they should have designed, so it's an improvement on their design. I'm just trying to understand that. I definitely appreciate that we were proactive,
Mhm.
mechanics that were on top of it, got it straightened out quickly. But so my Audi has a deficiency, I take it to the Audi store, the Audi fixes it, and then they give it back to me.
Yeah,
They don't give me the spare parts and say, go fix it.
it's a little different here, but I can get more information on the specifics.
I'm just curious why it wasn't asked. Yes, if you don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think typically we do all of our parts replacement here. This is not out of the ordinary for us to get word from Gillig on, hey, this isn't working, so do this to fix it. I don't think Antonio is in our audience here, but I can come back, I can follow up with you.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah.
I suspect that's because there's Audi dealerships in every town, whereas there are Gillig buses all over the United States and one Gillig factory. And
But
so
it's
the-
right here in.
Well,
the-
For us,
think
but
about that.
the process generally is they push
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to all
Yeah,
of
you're right.
all of the agencies to
And your bus and drive it from.
We just drive it right over there.
Well, it certainly makes sense for us to perhaps take our buses there. I don't.
So I wasn't gonna ask this,
Yeah.
but it is kind of leveraging off what she said. I was curious. This was a recommendation originally by Gillig. And did they provide any guidance into how to install?
I believe so. We are
So the first,
the first time.
okay, so then they said, well, no,
I
it
believe
should be done this way.
I believe so.
Okay, that's just clarification. Thank you.
All right, moving on to ridership, some good news here. So we are still seeing ridership gains. We finished fiscal 24, so the end of June, up 18% from the last fiscal year. We 1.353 million trips. Average weekday in June was up 9% from the year before, and July was up 7%, which is good. That shows me that, you know, ridership continues to return. Our new routes are getting ridership on them. We will be bringing you your first comprehensive performance report at your December meeting. So this will cover the first 6 months post Wheels in Motion service change.
Can I ask a quick question on that? Do we know our percentage increase versus BART's percentage increase in that same amount of times? Are we seeing more of an increase than what BART is seeing? Since
I will check. I think BART is pretty stable at 43%.
Post of.
Yeah, they plateaued a bit.
I just wondered if they had an increase year over year.
Okay, I'll look.
And if ours was a larger increase year over year, my suspicion is it is.
I think so, but I will look.
So that we're not just strictly dependent on BART's recovery.
I will look it up.
Thank you.
This year's 36% over last year, so that's great.
Yeah. We're chugging along. Then we had a great summer. So in the report, we've got some pictures and a report back of our fun activities. First, really exciting that we partnered with Maryland Avenue Elementary School on their Las Positas STEAM program. So in your packet, there's a picture of the backs of students' heads, because they're all minors, boarding our 30-hour bus. I just got this lovely thank you note from the principal at the school with a picture of the kids. So what we did here, they requested a bus to come and pick the kids up and take them to Las Positas. We don't have a route that goes right by this school. So I said, how do we get creative? And so what we did was we formed a walking bus, basically. So the kiddos had breakfast at Maryland Avenue, and then I didn't walk with them every day. I did do the walk once with the principal to chart the course, but they walked all the way up to Portola, caught the 30R, and went up to Las Positas, finished their day, came back and did the walk. They enjoyed free rides because we had our Youth Ride Free summer promotion. So it was really just a wonderful experience. And I think the kids had a great time. So looking forward to seeing if that happens again next year. Then we had our summer Youth Ride Free promotion, which was our first, this is our first time trying Youth Ride Free all summer long. I'd say it was a smashing success based on our analysis. We are seeing 154% increase in youth rides compared to the last year. Not quite apples to apples, I will say. Probably this is a bit of an overestimation, but still a significant increase in youth rides. So that was awesome. And I know I spoke with at least one young man at Dublin High who was saying how excited he was about taking buses all over the Tri-Valley, and you know who I'm talking about. He was just very excited, and I just loved hearing his enthusiasm. I want to put his face on a brochure. And then that just moved right into Tri-Transit. So our annual Tri-Transit to school wraps up last week. We are still evaluating results. We know we had full buses as we normally do. And this year the buses were fuller in Pleasanton. So we were watching very closely. We had to deploy additional resources to make sure everybody could be transported, but things have settled. So we're now looking at what, if any, buses we need to move around so that we've got enough capacity. Emerald High, Cyrus hit the nail on the head. 1 bus in the morning, 2 buses in the afternoon, both are full. So he's not here, but mad kudos. He's not here. Mad kudos to Cyrus for reading the tea leaves there. And then we were out at the school outreach activities. We had staff at Emerald High, we had staff at Granada, Livermore High, and any place we could go where folks requested us to be there, if we could go, we were going. And we shared information on Clipper cards, on the routes, and how to get the student transit pass. We showed off the radio bus at the Pacific Bus Museum open house. So there is a bus museum in Fremont, if you didn't know, it's there. And every year they have an open house. So we brought our radio bus down there, and I didn't attend. Mike Mike did, he said it was pretty cool. They had like a flea market. Or like a trade show or trading tchotchkes and,
And little model buses. and-
Yeah.
So if you're a transit nerd, it was really a.
yeah. So that was super cool. And then, we're preparing for supporting Clean Air Day. So September is Transit Month, Clean Air Day is October 2nd. There's a statewide effort to offer transit free across the state. So we are excited to join and we will be sharing, social media messaging and issuing a press release along with our other partners. And I'm gonna close the projects and services section with an update on the dairy detour. The Pleasanton Dairy Detour, which was a topic of conversation at our Projects and Services Committee meeting last month. Also a topic at the board meeting in July. Very happy to report that today we returned to normal routing on the 10R. Praise be. It's not going to be perfect. We can, our westbound bus stop on Neal Street is still temporarily closed because the dairy line is still going to queue up in front of the Neal Street bus stop. So we have a temporary stop located on First Street at the edge of Lions Wayside Park. We have an ADA compliant stop. There's a temporary sign up there. It's a short distance from the original stop. And we have support from the city and support from the dairy. So on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, from I think 3 p.m. to 8 or 9 p.m., the dairy queue lines will be placed on First Street and on Neal. They'll be shortened, so the bus can actually make that right turn on Neal. The city staff moved the stop bar back for that left turn from Neal onto First. So we've got this whole, it's a puzzle. We are asking for lane or hash marks, some type of markings on the on that turn from First to Neal to show the cars, like, don't wait in the turn lane, because that's what the cars do, they queue up. So we're hoping that, you know, with patient drivers, just very slow, put your turn signal on. If nothing's moving, call dispatch. We've got a commitment from the dairy staff that they can run out and shoo cars along. They move the line pretty fast, is my understanding. And our bus is only running once every 20 minutes. So they could look at a transit app and see when our bus is coming and run out there and make sure the cars aren't there. So
The manual signal priorities.
it's manual signal. We are going old school. We are going
As
back.
long
to
as it's not one finger.
I'm going out on Friday with my 10 fingers to watch to see what happens. But I'm pleased. We did get complaints. We did hear from our TAC that this was an issue for them. And so thank you for encouraging us to work with the city. I had a great lunch with city staff, and so I think we worked out a compromise, and we are just going to go slow and then reevaluate things for next year. So very happy about that.
I'm sorry, who was the complaint? You said,
We received a few complaints, one from one of our TAC members, Herb. I think other TAC members talked about it at the meeting last week. I wasn't at the meeting, but I think it came up. And then I believe we got at least one other complaint from a senior. So yeah, we didn't have too many, but there were enough to cause us to look at this issue again.
and the complaint was that they had to walk too far to
Yeah.
get into the.
Yeah, 0.7 miles or something like that. It was from, Lions Wayside or by the flagpole all the way over to Old Stand. It was a long distance, especially for a TAC member.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to comment, thank you. Thank you very much for working that out. Dairy is great, but it was not designed to be downtown at the core of such a busy area. So thank you. And also, since I have the floor, thank you everyone for working on the first day of school. That is always a big deal. Second day of school, third day of school. I know I've seen everyone out there trying to direct buses and so forth. And it is a challenge, but I know the parents greatly appreciate it, and so do the riders. And so does our numbers. Thank you,
So
thank
do
you,
we
thank you.
have a long-term alternative though? I mean, we don't, the popularity of the dairy is not gonna go away.
We will be studying a long-term solution. We're gonna kick it off here. We just hired a planning intern who's gonna help us collect some data. Yeah, so we would be, and this would come to the board, this would be another major service change, but we will be looking at modifications to the 10 to see if we can pull it out of that downtown, keeping it on First Street and then modifying the 8 to add more coverage in downtown. So the eight comes very close to doing a lot of what the 10 does. It just ends a lot earlier, doesn't run as frequent. So we will have some options, but, and this will be a public input process. We'll invite our riders to weigh in and the community.
Because the street closures once a month during the summer months also throw you off.
Absolutely. And
Concerts in the park throw you off.
Yeah.
You said,
Yes.
and then the dairy is the cherry on top.
So an alternative location because of all of those would be something worth looking at.
Absolutely. I mean, it's our 10R for rapid, and it's not rapid when it meanders through the downtown. I love the downtown. It's just, it goes very slow. It goes from right up to Neal to Peters to, so it just kind of snakes in. And so we have to balance that. Not everybody's going to BART. Not everyone wants to go there rapidly. Some people have destinations that are downtown, so we'll look at some options. But I think staying with the current alignment, it will be very problematic next summer.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. All right, moving on to finance and admin updates. At our August Finance and Admin Committee meeting, we gave a comprehensive legislative update to include a summary of, including a summary of activities associated with the regional transportation revenue measure. So we briefed the committee on the Regional Transportation Measure Select Committee, which is comprised of MTC commissioners, advocates, and key stakeholders, as well as my participation in the Regional Transportation Measure Executive Group, which is comprised of select transit agency general managers and county transportation agency CEOs, that Tess is on the executive group. So at the August meeting, the select committee was presented with two different scenarios for a regional measure. And the committee is expected to advance a preferred scenario at their meeting this month. And that means deciding what is the revenue source. Is it sales tax? Is it a parcel tax? Is it a payroll tax? How many counties does it impact? Is it 4 counties or is it 9 counties? And how much money are they anticipating going after? So there's a lot of key decisions to be made here in September. And then after September, they are expected to approve an expenditure framework at their October meeting. All of this will go before the commission at their November meeting. This is moving fast. This is very, very important. And I will be attending these meetings and we'll keep the board apprised. I've reached out to Commissioner Miley, who serves on the select committee, to try to build a relationship so I can inform him as he goes and serves, as the Tri-Valley's reps on these important committees. So I'll keep you updated on that effort. The strategic plan, we have an update. So we released an informal RFP in June. We received 8 proposals in July, so really great responses. After the evaluations were conducted, we held interviews with the top 2 firms. And after our interviews, the selection committee, which was comprised of 3 or 4 internal lab staff and 1 external representative, the committee was unanimous in selecting CHS Consulting Group as the best value for LabTech. The not to exceed amount was $91,097, which is within my spending authority. So I did execute that contract. We had an informal kickoff meeting last week. We are finalizing the scope and timeline, and I expect to have an update at our Projects and Services Committee meeting this month. This will be fast moving, but very important as we kind of redevelop our North Star for LabTech. And some great news, well, she's not here today, but our intern, Mahi Bhatt, was selected to receive a $10,000 scholarship from the American Public Transportation Foundation. She will be honored in Anaheim on October 1st. She won't be able to attend because she is starting Stanford. So congrats to Mahi. We had cake and celebrated her last week. Thank you for joining us. And then lastly, you've got 2 months of stats in your packet, and I want to just point out they look different because I've been trying for a year to update your stats. So your June stats are in the old format. Your July stats are in the new format. Some things aren't perfect. We're gonna keep maybe noodling on some of the charts, but I do want to point out, I've already kind of highlighted some of the ridership gains. you're gonna start seeing different things. You're gonna start seeing trend lines, which is different than what we have shown you in the past. So, for example, the on-time performance trend line, you'll be able to see that throughout the year. You can see, you know, where we compare to ourselves last year. We've got our complaints. You'll be able to see the trends with our complaints. Let's see, so go Tri-Valley on page 146 of your packet. The chart, there is an error that I just noticed it 10 minutes before this meeting started. So July is down. But the rest of the months here, they are feeding from the wrong year. So this chart, we will update it and send it out to the board. It's still going in the right direction, but this chart is incorrect on this page. And then I will just point out, as I look at paratransit, the preventable accidents, I thought that was an error because there's only 2 data points, but we just had no accidents. So so it's a good thing. And it's not, since we have so few miles, when you have one accident, you can see this big, you know, 4.5 number, but it's really because we have so few miles each month. So I just want to point that out. And I'm happy to take any questions and receive any feedback on the stats.
Do you have any?
Would you comment on customer complaints for 10,000 boardings? And you got something strange in July,
Yes,
and then everything else, the chart is so difficult to read for the actual complaints. I don't know if there's
Okay.
0, maybe there's 0.
there's 0 so far.
But July was not a good month.
Thank you for noting that. I also saw that we had 9 more valid complaints in July, and I just was meeting with staff to talk about this because I said this is gonna bring out a question. You remember we had that heat wave in July that was just horrible.
Yeah.
So I think we had a few issues related to that. Bypasses, so passengers often wait in the shade and they're not in the shade of our bus stop, so you'll see them in, like, under a tree. And so our operators oftentimes won't see them. That's not acceptable, but that does happen. We also saw an increase in complaints because BART was running late. They run slow when it's so hot. We're trying to understand how slow they run. And we have a 3-minute hold. So if you're on BART or on ACE, and you know you're running late, and you have a connection to make, you can call our customer service center and request a 3-minute hold. And we will do that, we accommodate. So the complaint we got was we weren't accommodating the 3-minute hold. Is that right, Mike? So, you know, if BART was running 6 or 8 minutes late, we're only holding for 3 minutes. And so that is, so I believe that the uptick in complaints was due to a lot of things associated with the heat.
If I'm waiting under a tree,
Mhm.
is there some places I see there's a post and with a
Uh-huh.
solar panel and a sign? Can I push a button there so it says, please come by and don't bypass me?
Not currently. We don't have that technology.
Maybe in the Sigma Transit.
Yeah.
There would be some way to look at that.
Store in the cloud.
So Rita.
No, store it in the cloud. No,
Okay. I noticed also that there's it seems like the on-time performance, like 1 dot is not a trend, but the July on-time performance was significantly low. So 2 questions about that. On the 3-minute hold, if we wait 3 minutes, but not 6 minutes, and then somebody complains about we didn't wait because the BART train was late, is that considered a valid complaint or not a valid complaint?
So if we hold for 3 minutes,
If somebody calls and says the BART is 6 minutes late, will you hold and we say, no, sorry, we can't, we can only hold for 3, and they still complain, is that a valid complaint or
is
not
that
valid?
is that a valid complaint? No.
Okay, so that wouldn't, those.
I guess, yeah,
before
yeah.
6 would not be in our valid complaints. And then on the 3-minute hold, does that put us running behind, and is that considered that could, so if we had a lot of those 3-minute
Yeah.
holds because BART was late, that could
Yeah,
affect
yeah,
our on-time
absolutely.
performance?
Yeah. And what I'm hoping, and I've already started speaking with my BART colleagues, is there's seasonality to their on-time performance. If they know, because it's over 100 degrees, that their trains run 10% slower, I'm making those numbers up, tell us that, because we can add in more time for our summer schedule. We're gonna do a summer schedule for the 10, we're gonna figure something out. We could run a special schedule with, you know, more running time, more hold time built in, but BART has to give us that data. And so that's something, I'm certain that they have that data. I don't know if they've analyzed it that way, but it really does impact us, those high heat days when BART runs slow.
Well, if they're running slow, it's impacting their on-time performance
is,
as well.
yeah.
So you would think they'd want to build it into their own schedule.
Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe that's not accurate.
Yeah, and I don't think that they do. I think they just run late on those, but I don't know. I'm gonna ask them.
Because that's I mean, it seems like that's not the only problem in July. Yes, we certainly had a hotter July, but that's a pretty significant drop in on-time performance, year over year. It looks just I like the format a lot.
Okay, good.
As a, big nerd. The July and it's easier to see in this format for me that, clearly, July and June have way fewer passengers per hour because the students are not going to school. They're not sending, all those buses to the schools. And the on-time performance, seems to be, higher in July and June. So those school buses are not impacting the on-time performance.
And there's less traffic too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But July is always like that, so it's
Yeah.
a significant drop in on-time
Yeah.
performance for June, so I would love to hear more
Okay.
about how that has been.
And I can't even read these numbers, so I'm gonna make them bigger and darker, 'cause I can't even read them, so,
My glasses.
I might. So yes, okay, I will,
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 10, matters initiated by the board of directors. Do we have any matters initiated? All right. Seeing none, next meeting date is scheduled for October 7th, 2024, and we are adjourned.
45 minutes for packet.